Imagine standing on the edge of a primeval forest, thousands of years ago. The air is thick with mist, the earth damp beneath your feet. Somewhere in the shadows, you hear a low growl. Instinctively, your muscles tighten. You grip a stone in your hand, not out of curiosity, but out of fear and the readiness to kill. For as long as we can trace the story of prehistoric humans, violence seems to have followed us like a shadow. From the broken skulls of Neanderthals found in ancient caves to the sharpened spearheads buried in mass graves, one question lingers in the silence of archaeology. Were we engineered by nature, or perhaps by something else, to be violent? Human evolution is often told as a story of triumph, intelligence, and survival. We admire the great leap from stone tools to fire, from hunter-gatherer tribes to loft civilizations that built monuments outlasting time itself. But behind this proud story lies another, darker threat. Fossils and artifacts whisper of brutality, of humans who slaughtered rivals, wiped out entire species, and carved empires from blood. But why? Was this violence an accidental byproduct of survival in the harsh Ice Age? Was it the legacy of competing with megafauna and rival hominids? Or is there a possibility that our tendency toward aggression was shaped, engineered into us by forces we barely understand? This journey will lead us deep into the caves of archaeology, across the bones of ancient battles, and through the mysterious questions of human nature. Are we violent simply because of survival, or because violence itself was written into our design? Tonight, we open the oldest chapter of our story and confront a haunting possibility, the dark side of human evolution.
When we look at the fossil record, one thing becomes immediately clear. Prehistoric humans did not live in a peaceful Eden. Their world was violent, unpredictable, and unforgiving. From the Ice Age tundras to the savannas of Africa, survival meant constant competition, not just against saber-toothed cats and mammoths, but against other humans. Archaeology has given us startling glimpses into this reality. In northern Spain, within the caves of El Cidrón, Neanderthal bones bear the unmistakable marks of cannibalism, scrape marks left by stone tools, as if one group had butchered another. In Kenya's Nataruk site, scientists uncovered the remains of a massacre dating back 10,000 years. Skeletons pierced with obsidian blades, skulls smashed in, hands bound. These were not random killings. They were acts of organized violence, some of the earliest evidence of warfare. But the story runs deeper. Even before the rise of agriculture, when humans lived as small hunter-gatherer bands, conflict left its traces. Why would tiny groups already struggling against the elements turn against each other? Anthropologists argue that resources, water, territory, mates were limited. In such an environment, aggression may have been a survival strategy. Those who fought fiercely for food and land passed their genes forward. Those who did not, vanished. Genetics seems to support this. Studies on human DNA reveal that aggression-related hormones like testosterone and stress response systems such as cortisol are deeply ingrained in our biology. Unlike most primates, humans combine traits of both cooperation and cruelty. Chimpanzees, our closest relatives, launch raids on rival groups, brutally killing males and abducting females. Could our ancestors have inherited the same tendencies, sharpened further by evolution? And then there is the unsettling evidence of extinction. Around 40,000 years ago, at least 6 human-like species walked the Earth: Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo floresiensis, Homo naledi, and more. Within a short span of evolutionary time, only one remained: us. Did Homo sapiens simply outcompete them, or did we erase them? Excavations in Europe show periods where Neanderthals and modern humans overlapped, but as sapiens spread, the others disappeared. Some scientists point to climate change as the culprit, But others whisper of something darker, interspecies conflict, where our ancestors' violence was not just against animals, but against their cousins. Civilization itself did not erase this violent legacy, it magnified it. The first cities, born in Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley, rose behind walls. Walls meant defense. Defense meant enemies. From Sumerian records of battles carved in stone to Egyptian murals celebrating conquest, the archaeology of ancient civilizations tells a story soaked in blood. Even the rise of metallurgy, once hailed as progress, reveals a truth. Bronze and iron were first used not for plows, but for weapons. The deeper we look, the more it seems that violence was not just an accident of history, it was a driving force of evolution. It shaped our tools, our societies, even our myths. Stories of gods waging wars, heroes slaying rivals, and empires claiming divine right are not just tales. They are echoes of a violent survival strategy carved into our species. But here is the great mystery. Why does this darkness persist? If evolution is about survival, why has violence not burned itself out with time? Why does it still shape nations, politics, and even daily human behavior? Some scientists argue that aggression was balanced with cooperation. Without it, humanity would never have built complex societies. Others suggest something more unsettling. Perhaps violence was not just a tool of survival, but a trait selected, engineered by forces of natural selection, or perhaps by something beyond nature itself. Archaeology and anthropology give us the fragments, the bones, the weapons, the ruins. But it is in these fragments that we glimpse the paradox of human evolution. We are builders and destroyers, creators and killers. To understand the darkness within us, we must go further into the heart of the evolutionary story itself.
Picture the Ice Age, around 50,000 years ago. A band of Homo sapiens huddles around a flickering fire, their breath rising in the frozen air. Beyond the circle of light, shadows move. Wolves, perhaps, or rival humans. Each man grips a sharpened spear. Each woman clutches a child closer. Fear hangs in the air, but so does something else. Readiness. The readiness to fight, to kill, to survive. This is where the story of human violence begins to take shape, not as a cultural accident, but as a survival instinct forged by evolution itself. In a world of scarcity, those who hesitated often died. Those who struck first, defended their territory, and protected their kin lived to pass their genes on. Archaeological evidence paints a vivid picture. Take the case of Neanderthals. Their skeletons often reveal healed fractures, broken bones, and crushed skulls, wounds that mirror injuries seen in modern soldiers and boxers. These were not accidents. They hint at close-quarters combat, face-to-face struggles where strength and aggression were crucial. One fossil, known as Shawnadar 3, shows a rib punctured by what may have been a projectile weapon, possibly thrown by a Homo sapien. Was this murder, or simply survival in a brutal contest for land and resources? But it wasn't only Neanderthals. Our own species left behind signs of violence woven into daily life. In some prehistoric mass graves, archaeologists find arrowheads embedded in bones. Spears designed for hunting animals were equally effective against humans. Warfare, it seems, did not begin with cities. It was born in the wild. The parallels with the animal kingdom are striking. Among chimpanzees, our closest evolutionary cousins, groups conduct what researchers call border patrols. Males move silently at the edges of their territory, scanning for rivals. When they find an isolated enemy, they attack with lethal force, often tearing the victim apart. Why? To eliminate competition, to expand territory, and to gain access to resources. Sound familiar? Many anthropologists argue that early humans behaved the same way, except with sharper weapons and greater cunning. What makes this darker is how violence may have shaped our very brains. Neuroscience suggests that our ancestors' survival depended on the ability to anticipate threats, react quickly, and form alliances for defense. This constant state of readiness wired aggression deeply into our neural circuits. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, became hypersensitive, triggering fight or flight responses at the slightest danger. In a sense, violence was etched into our design, not as a choice, but as a requirement for survival. Imagine two tribes meeting at a river during the Ice Age. Both need water, both need fish, both are starving. What happens? They could share, but sharing means risk. One tribe might take advantage, strike when the other is vulnerable. Over time, distrust prevails. Spears are raised, stones are thrown, blood spills on the riverbank. The victors drink, the vanquished perish. This story may have repeated itself countless times, shaping the destiny of entire lineages. Some scientists even argue that violence was a selective filter. Those who could kill, defend, and organize violent retaliation ensured their group's survival. Those who could not were wiped from history. This may explain why Homo sapiens, smaller in number than Neanderthals and Denisovans at one point, ended up dominating the planet. It wasn't just intelligence that secured our survival. It was a balance of cooperation and ruthless aggression. But here lies the paradox. Violence alone cannot explain the rise of great civilizations. If humans were only killers, society would collapse. Cooperation was equally vital, hunting in groups, sharing food, building shelters. It seems evolution engineered us not just to fight, but to hold within us the tension between compassion and cruelty, a dual nature, capable of extraordinary kindness, but also unspeakable brutality. And so the question deepens. If violence was so deeply tied to our survival, was it a natural accident of evolution or a deliberate feature? Were we programmed by natural selection to carry this dark potential? Or, as some fringe theories suggest, did something else play a role in shaping us this way, leaving violence as part of our inheritance? To answer that, we must dig deeper, not only into bones and weapons, but into the mysteries of culture, myth, and the strange debates among scientists about our darker origins.
If Part 1 showed us how violence may have been woven into the fabric of human survival, Part 2 leads us into the unsettling realm of why this trait persists and whether it might have been shaped, intentionally or unintentionally, by forces beyond mere chance. Let's begin with the academic debates. Many anthropologists argue that human aggression is not unique. It's simply a mirror of the animal kingdom. As we saw with chimpanzees and lions, dominance and violence ensure survival. But others disagree, pointing to the scale and intensity of human cruelty. No other species commits genocide, develops weapons of mass destruction, or wages wars across continents. Something in us seems to magnify violence far beyond survival. Consider the mystery of the Neanderthals' disappearance. Was it climate? Disease? Or was it us? Archaeological layers in Europe reveal unsettling patterns. As Homo sapiens advanced, Neanderthal settlements vanished. Some scientists, like Professor Pat Shipman, argue that we didn't just outcompete them, we eradicated them. If true, it means our evolutionary success was fueled by extermination. But here's the question. Was this simply natural aggression, or the result of an evolutionary program favoring violent domination? This is where speculation enters. Some evolutionary psychologists suggest that violence may have been adaptive, built into us by natural selection. In other words, aggression wasn't just tolerated, it was rewarded. Over thousands of years, genes linked to dominance, risk-taking, and aggression spread because they gave survival advantages. If this is true, we are, in a sense, engineered by nature itself to carry both cooperation and violence in our DNA. Yet other theories push further, into more unsettling territory. Some researchers of ancient myth and archaeology whisper of external influences, that humanity's darker impulses may have been amplified by encounters with unknown forces. From the Sumerian myths of gods who created humans as servants to the Book of Enoch describing beings who corrupted humankind with forbidden knowledge, legends suggest our nature may have been tampered with. Could violence itself have been part of that gift or curse? Science cannot prove this, but the persistence of these myths across cultures is striking. Even within science, contradictions abound. Take the famous killer ape theory proposed by Raymond Dart in the mid-20th century. He argued that early humans evolved specifically as hunters and killers, that our hands and brains were designed for violence. But critics point out that early humans were also scavengers, gatherers, and collaborators. Violence wasn't destiny, it was a choice shaped by environment. Still, the fossil evidence of trauma and massacre sites refuses to let the theory die. Modern neuroscience adds another twist. Brain scans show that violent behavior is not random. It's linked to specific neural pathways, hormones, and genetic variations. Some individuals carry variants of the MAOA gene, sometimes dubbed the warrior gene, which correlates with aggressive behavior under stress. Could it be that evolution selected such traits to ensure humanity's survival in a hostile world? But here's the paradox that troubles scientists. Violence has often endangered our survival as much as it ensured it. Entire empires collapsed under the weight of their own wars. Rome, the Maya, Mesopotamia. If violence was purely advantageous, why does it so often lead to destruction? Perhaps violence is not a perfect tool of evolution, but a dangerous double-edged sword, one we were never meant to wield so recklessly. And so we return to the central question. Were we engineered to be violent? If by engineered we mean shaped by natural selection, then yes, violence played a key role in sculpting us into survivors. If we mean engineered by something beyond nature, by unknown forces, ancient influences, or even deliberate design, the evidence is more mysterious but no less haunting. Think of it this way. Every stone tool, every spear, every weapon carved from bronze or iron is not just an artifact of progress. It is a reflection of our dual inheritance. We are the species that painted caves with beauty and painted battlefields with blood. The debate is not settled. Scientists continue to argue, archaeologists continue to dig, and humanity continues to act out its ancient programming in the modern world, whether in tribal conflicts, global wars, or even the aggression of daily life. The question remains, are we trapped by our violent inheritance, or do we have the power to rewrite it? To explore that, we must step out of prehistory and into the present, to reflect on what this dark legacy means for us today and what it reveals about our possible future.
What does all of this mean for us now? Thousands of years after the Ice Age, after Neanderthals, after the rise and fall of lost civilizations. Why does it matter that prehistoric humans may have been shaped, even engineered to be violent? Because the shadows of that ancient inheritance still walk beside us. Look around and you'll see them everywhere. Wars still rage across continents. Political systems are built as much on intimidation as on cooperation. Even in daily life, our arguments, rivalries, and competition echo the survival struggles of our ancestors around the fire. The weapons have changed, but the impulse remains the same. Take the modern battlefield. Drones, missiles, and nuclear bombs are extensions of the same survival instinct that once drove a hunter to sharpen a spear. The stakes are simply larger. In fact, one could argue that our species is in the most dangerous phase of its history. We carry the violent instincts of prehistoric humans, but now we have tools capable of ending civilization itself. We are, in a sense, the caveman with the god's arsenal. And it's not just in war. Consider sports, politics, business, even online debates. So much of human culture is built around conflicts, competition, and dominance. Why do we cheer at gladiators in Roman arenas, knights in medieval tournaments, or boxers in a ring today? Because part of us still resonates with the primal drama of violence, the thrill of survival played out before our eyes. It is an echo of Ice Age survival disguised as entertainment. But here's the paradox. Humanity is also capable of extraordinary compassion. We build hospitals, share knowledge across nations, and risk our lives to save strangers. If violence is written into us, then so is empathy. Perhaps the true engineering of human evolution was not to make us violent, but to make us capable of both extremes, to give us a choice. The question then becomes, are we slaves to our evolutionary past, or can we break free from it? History gives us examples of both. The Ice Age tribes who slaughtered rivals are the same lineage that later built cities, invented art, and wrote poetry. The same species that raised empires also abolished slavery and signed declarations of human rights. Violence is part of us, yes, but so is the capacity to rise above it. Modern science even suggests ways we might shift the balance. Neuroscience shows that compassion and cooperation activate reward centers in the brain, releasing oxytocin and dopamine, just as violence triggers adrenaline. In other words, our biology doesn't force us to be violent. It gives us the potential. Which side we nurture becomes a cultural choice. This is where archaeology and anthropology offer more than just stories about the past. They serve as mirrors. By looking at prehistoric humans, we see ourselves, not just where we came from, but what still lives inside us. If we were engineered to be violent, then our challenge as a species is to re-engineer ourselves towards peace. Think about this. When our ancestors survived the Ice Age, they did so by adapting, by inventing fire, clothing, and shelter. Today, our survival depends on a different adaptation, learning to manage the violence within us. If we fail, we risk becoming just another layer in the archaeological record, a civilization that rose with brilliance but collapsed under the weight of its own aggression. But if we succeed, if we learn to master this ancient inheritance, we could be the first species in Earth's history to transcend its evolutionary programming. That possibility makes our story not just dark, but profoundly hopeful. So the next time you hear of conflict in the news or feel anger rising within yourself, remember, this is not just about today. It is the echo of battles fought thousands of years ago in forests and caves, on riverbanks and tundra. The question is not whether violence exists in us. It does. The question is whether we will continue to let it rule us, or whether we will choose a different path. Because in the end, human evolution is not finished. We are still writing it.
The story of human evolution is often told as a march toward progress, stone tools to cities, hunting bands to great civilizations. But when we peel back the layers of archaeology, a darker truth emerges. Survival was never gentle. It was forged in violence, sharpened by fear, and carried forward by those who fought hardest to live. From the cannibalized bones of Neanderthals to the massacre sites of ancient hunter-gatherers, evidence suggests that aggression was not an exception, but a rule. Our very biology reflects it. Hormones and neural circuits fine-tuned for fight or flight, instincts shaped by millennia of struggle. And yet, alongside this violence, grew the seeds of compassion, cooperation, and creativity. We are both destroyers and dreamers, killers and builders. So, were we engineered to be violent? If we speak of natural selection, the answer is yes. Violence was one of nature's tools, carving us into survivors. But if we ask whether something else, some unknown hand designed us this way, the answer is far less certain. The myths of gods and ancient beings suggest it. Science, for now, only hints at it. What we know is that violence is not an accident of our past. It is a legacy written into our story. And this is where the real mystery lies. If violence helped us conquer the Ice Age, wipe out rivals, and build empires, why does it still haunt us today when survival no longer demands it? Why do wars still scar our world when we have enough knowledge and technology to thrive in peace? Perhaps the truth is that evolution gave us both impulses, the instinct to destroy and the capacity to rise above it. The choice, as always, belongs to us. Think about it. Our ancestors survived glaciers, predators, and famine. Their lessons live in us, but so does their darkness. The question now is not what they were, but what we will become. Will we remain captives of ancient instincts, destined to repeat the cycle of violence until we fall? Or will we learn to rewrite the story, choosing cooperation over conflict, creation over destruction? In the end, the dark side of human evolution is not just about bones and fossils. It's about the reflection we see in the mirror. It's about the wars we fight, the anger we harbor, the choices we make every day. Archaeology shows us where we began. The future will show us whether we have the courage to evolve beyond it. So, I leave you with a question.
Are we truly masters of our destiny, or are we still prisoners of the violence written into our past? If you found this journey thought-provoking, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice is part of this exploration. Together, we uncover not only the mysteries of prehistoric humans, but also the mysteries within ourselves. And this is just one chapter. Join us in the next journey as we dive even deeper into the secrets of archaeology, evolution, and the lost civilizations that shaped our world. Because the story of humanity is far from over. It is still being written by us.